General Hospital will reveal interesting details for the week of March 10th to 14th, 2025. First, Jason moved through the desolate streets with unwavering focus, his every step calculated and deliberate. For days, he had been tracking Charlotte, following a trail of cryptic clues and whispers that led him here, to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The Cassidy name carried a long history of secrets and deception, and Jason knew better than to underestimate the danger that surrounded the young girl. Valentine was not a man who left loose ends, and if Charlotte was truly in his grasp, Jason had to assume that every step he took was being watched. But he had made a promise, to Anna, to Lulu, and to himself, that he would bring Charlotte home safely. He wouldn't back down now, no matter the risks that lay ahead. As he reached the entrance of the warehouse, a sense of unease settled in his gut. The door was slightly ajar, an invitation that felt far too convenient. Years of experience told him that this was no accident. Either Valentine had anticipated his arrival, or there was something far more sinister at play. Keeping his movements silent, Jason eased the door open and slipped inside. The air was stale, thick with dust and the lingering scent of rusted metal. Wooden crates were stacked along the walls, casting long shadows in the dim light filtering through the broken windows. The silence was oppressive, almost unnatural. He had expected to find guards, some form of resistance, but there was nothing. That absence of opposition only heightened his wariness. Something was wrong, and Jason knew better than to ignore his instincts. Then, a sound, faint, barely perceptible. A shuffle in the darkness. His pulse quickened as he shifted his stance, his grip tightening around his weapon. Was it Charlotte, frightened and hiding? Or was it Valentine, waiting to strike? Every second felt stretched, thick with tension as Jason's gaze darted through the gloom, searching for any sign of movement. He had come too far to turn back now. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready for it. One thing was certain, he would not leave without Charlotte, no matter what it took. Second, while Jason focused on his dangerous mission, Jocelyn found herself facing a new and unexpected challenge. Having officially begun her WSB training, she quickly realized that the program was far more intense than she had imagined. Every day pushed her to her limits, both physically and mentally, as she adapted to the grueling expectations of the agency. Under the guidance of her new trainer, Vaughn, she was forced to sharpen her instincts and perfect her combat techniques. But this wasn't just about discipline or skill, there was something deeper at play. Jack Brennan had hand-picked her for a specific assignment, and while she didn't yet know the full extent of what he had planned, she could sense that her future with WSB was about to take a drastic turn. Vaughn, though tough and relentless, seemed to be preparing her for something bigger, something that would test her resolve in ways she hadn't yet encountered. Back in Port Charles, Carly found herself at a crossroads, faced with a decision that could alter the course of her life. With Jason away and Jocelyn focused on her own path, she was left to navigate a situation that had become increasingly complicated. Her relationship with Brennan loomed over her like an unanswered question. Was she willing to fully align herself with him, knowing the risks that came with it? Or was there another reason for her hesitation, perhaps unresolved feelings tied to her past? As she weighed her options, it became clear that whatever choice she made would come with consequences. Whether it was stepping closer to Brennan or keeping her distance, the outcome would shape her future in ways she couldn't yet predict. At the same time, another factor lingered in Carly's mind, Drew. Their relationship had been on shaky ground for a while, and tensions between them had only escalated. Carly had never been one to back down from a fight, and if Drew thought he could outmaneuver her, he was sorely mistaken. If necessary, she was more than willing to take bold action against him, ensuring that she remained in control of her own destiny. Whether that meant a strategic move within their business dealings or something more personal, Carly was ready. No matter what happened next, she refused to be caught off guard. Third, Nina sensed that time was running out, and if she wanted to take control of the situation, she had to act quickly. The news of Willow moving in with Drew sent a wave of alarm through her, intensifying her desperation to put an end to the growing connection between them. It wasn't just about her lingering resentment toward Carly, it was about protecting Willow from making a mistake that could have lasting consequences. Drew had already proven himself to be manipulative and reckless, and Nina wasn't about to stand by and let her daughter become entangled in his world. Carly, despite their long-standing animosity, found herself in rare agreement with Nina on this matter. Though neither woman would ever admit it, they shared the same goal, stopping Drew before he gained any more influence over Willow. The problem was, neither of them had a clear plan, at least not yet. But Nina had never been one to sit on the sidelines. If there was a way to turn the situation to her advantage, she would find it. Meanwhile, Curtis was on the verge of a revelation that would change everything. For weeks, he had sensed that something was off, but when he finally uncovered the truth about Drew blackmailing Portia, the betrayal cut deep. He had always known Drew to be ambitious, but this was different, this was personal. The idea that Drew would manipulate and pressure Portia for his own gain ignited a fire in Curtis, one that made him reconsider every alliance he had formed. Revenge wasn't usually his first instinct, but in this case, he wasn't about to let Drew get away with it. He had watched Portia struggle for too long, and now that he had the power to fight back, he wasn't going to hold back. The only question was how far he was willing to go. With so many enemies closing in, Drew's downfall was inevitable. He had spent too long making reckless moves, alienating people who once stood by his side, and pushing boundaries that should never have been crossed. Now, he was running out of options. Curtis wasn't the only one looking for justice, there were others waiting in the shadows, watching for the perfect moment to strike. Nina, Carly, and even those Drew once considered allies were beginning to see him for what he truly was, a man whose greed and ambition had finally caught up to him. His reign of manipulation was nearing its end, and when the final blow came, it wouldn't just be from one person, it would come from all sides. Fouth, Jordan and Isaiah found themselves drawn closer together, their connection deepening in ways neither of them had fully anticipated. What started as mutual respect and companionship had quickly evolved into something far more intense, and as their feelings grew, so did their willingness to let go of past hesitations. For the first time in a long while, Jordan felt like she could trust someone completely, and Isaiah, despite his tough exterior, had a way of making her feel seen and understood. Their chemistry was undeniable, and as they spent more time together, it became increasingly clear that resisting their attraction was futile. Eventually, their emotions reached a tipping point, leading them to take that next step, embracing the passion that had been simmering between them. For a brief moment, they allowed themselves to enjoy the happiness they had found in each other's arms, believing that perhaps, this time, love wouldn't come with a cost. But peace was often fleeting, and danger always had a way of creeping back in. Just as Jordan and Isaiah were beginning to settle into their newfound relationship, trouble loomed on the horizon. Jens Sidwell's name had been whispered in dark corners, a warning of the chaos that was about to unfold. His reputation preceded him, a man who thrived in destruction, leaving nothing but devastation in his wake. Though Jordan had faced countless adversaries in her career, there was something different about Sidwell, something that made this threat feel far more personal. Isaiah, too, was no stranger to the weight of looming danger, but this time, he had something to lose, someone to protect. And he wasn't about to let anything happen to Jordan, no matter the cost. As the storm gathered, their love would be put to the test. Could they withstand the forces working against them, or was their relationship doomed before it even had the chance to fully blossom? With Sidwell's shadow inching closer, their time together may have been nothing more than the calm before an inevitable battle, one that could change everything. Fifth, Brooke Lynn had spent years burying the truth, convincing herself that what had happened all those years ago was a chapter best left closed. But now, that fragile sense of security was crumbling around her. Lulu had backed her into a corner, threatening to expose everything to Dante, and the weight of that possibility was suffocating. She had always known that this secret wouldn't stay hidden forever, but she had hoped to be the one to decide when and how to reveal it. Now, it seemed like her choice had been stolen from her. The pressure was mounting, and Brooke Lynn realized she had no other option. If Dante was going to hear the truth, it had to come from her. The thought of facing him, of watching the inevitable betrayal flash across his face, made her stomach twist, but delaying it any longer would only make things worse. With a deep breath, she found Dante and forced herself to begin unraveling the tangled web of lies she had spent years maintaining. She told him about the pregnancy, about the impossible decision she had made when she was too young and scared to see another way out. She spoke of the summer they had shared at camp, how she had left without telling him the truth, and how, in the end, she had chosen adoption because she thought it was the best thing for their child. Each word felt heavier than the last, and as she finally admitted the full truth, she braced herself for his reaction. The silence that followed was deafening. Dante's expression shifted from confusion to realization, and then to something much darker: hurt, betrayal, anger. The revelation hit him harder than Brooke Lynn had anticipated. The idea that she had kept something this monumental from him, that she had made a decision about their child's future without ever giving him a say, was almost too much to process. He had spent his entire life valuing honesty and loyalty, and yet here was someone he had trusted, a childhood friend, someone he had once cared deeply for, who had deceived him in the most profound way. The emotions crashed over him like a tidal wave, leaving him reeling. He couldn't understand why she had never told him, why she had decided on her own that he didn't deserve to know. The idea that he had a child out there, somewhere, growing up without him, was a truth too painful to fully grasp. Brooke Lynn could see the anger boiling beneath the surface, and she knew she had shattered something between them, something that might never be repaired. Dante's disappointment cut deeper than any words could, and she feared that no explanation, no amount of regret, would ever be enough to fix what she had broken. She had made a choice years ago, believing it was the right one, but now, as she stood before Dante, watching the devastation unfold in his eyes, she realized that some choices came with consequences that lasted a lifetime. Finally, Brooke Lynn had thought that telling Dante the truth would be the hardest part, but she quickly realized that she wasn't done facing the consequences of her past. There was still one more confession left to make, one that could threaten her relationship with Chase. He already knew about the child she had given up for adoption, but he didn't know the full truth. The fact that Dante was the father was a detail she had conveniently left out, not because she wanted to lie, but because she feared what it might mean for her future with Chase. Now, as the fallout of her secret began to unfold, she knew she couldn't keep this from him any longer. The last thing she wanted was for Chase to find out through someone else. He deserved to hear it from her, no matter how much it might hurt. When Brooke Lynn finally sat Chase down and told him the truth, she could see the immediate shift in his expression, the flicker of shock followed by disbelief. He had accepted her past, had supported her even when she had hesitated to open up about it, but this was different. The idea that Dante, one of his closest friends, was the father of Brooke Lynn's child complicated everything. Chase had never been the jealous type, but this wasn't just about emotions, this was about trust. Had she ever really planned to tell him? Or had she been hoping that he would never find out? The weight of her omission made him question everything. If she could keep something this significant from him, what else had she been hiding? Meanwhile, Lois was growing increasingly uneasy as the situation spiraled out of control. The moment she heard that Brooke Lynn had finally confessed, her heart sank. She had always feared this day would come, the day when the past would resurface in a way that could upend everything. But it wasn't just Brooke Lynn she was worried about, it was Gio. The tangled history of his adoption had been kept under wraps for a reason, and if too many people started digging into Brooke Lynn's secret, there was a real risk that the truth about his biological parents would come to light. Lois had worked tirelessly to protect her daughter, but now she wondered if all of her efforts had been in vain. As tensions mounted, the stakes became even higher. The walls were closing in, and it was only a matter of time before everything unraveled. If the truth about Joe's adoption were to be exposed, it wouldn't just affect Brooke Lynn, it could send shockwaves through their entire family. Lois wasn't sure what terrified her more, the possibility of facing the truth head-on or the damage it could leave in its wake. One thing was certain, this was only the beginning of the chaos to come. Stay tuned for all the thrilling developments as secrets unravel, relationships are tested, and unexpected twists shake up Port Charles. With emotions running high and the past coming back to haunt key players, the drama is only just beginning. Will Brooke Lynn be able to repair the damage caused by her confessions? Can Chase and Dante navigate the shocking truth that binds them? And what will happen if the mystery surrounding Joe's adoption is finally exposed? With danger looming for Jason, Jocelyn's intense WSB training, Carly's bold choices, and the storm brewing around Drew, the stakes have never been higher. Meanwhile, Jordan and Isaiah's love story may be threatened before it even has a chance to fully blossom. As more secrets come to light, alliances will shift, and unexpected betrayals will leave everyone questioning who they can really trust. Don't miss a moment of the action as Port Charles is rocked by shocking revelations, heated confrontations, and life-changing decisions. Keep watching for all the jaw-dropping twists and turns that will leave you on the edge of your seat.